It's always the same things that always attract me to make movies. It's the script and the director. You know, I read the script, I liked the script, I thought it was a very unusual and original spy movie, really. It had some very cool action, but it was sort of rooted in this very unusual real world. You know, it was these guys who were ex-special forces who were living very much in the real world, and it felt like a real spy story. And then I saw Gary's short that he was nominated for and thought it was really impressive, and then had a number of conversations about, you know, his vision for the film, and decided I wanted to do it. I play a character called Spike, who's ex-SAS, and something has happened. He's sort of damaged his eye and has obviously left the Special Forces, but still feels very much like he wishes he was involved, and he's part of this sort of clandestine group that kind of meet and protect members of the SAS and their families and people who have left. And basically they begin to suspect that some of their men are being targeted. They don't quite know why, and they don't quite know who's doing it. But certain people have been around asking questions about certain operations that the SAS were involved in, and he begins to sort of set up a counterintelligence amongst ex-SAS guys who are now trying to find out what's going on and try and prevent their guys being killed, really. Luckily, I actually know a few ex-SAS guys, so I could pick their brains a bit. And then I had a couple of meetings with an SAS consultant, a guy who'd been in the SAS for 25 years. And the interesting thing is he's ex-SAS, which is what I was playing. And it was fascinating, really, just to pick his brains about really the whole selection process for the SAS. I had no idea what that was like, and to hear how rigorous that is and how very few people pass that sort of test procedure. And it's pretty much that sort of people that are showing themselves to be incredibly adept and incredibly skilled, and then sort of selected and put through this process where a lot of them are eliminated and only a very few get through. So he taught me all about that whole process, and also he was a great sort of explainer of what it's like to be ex-SAS in a way, to be someone who... There's something that this film covers, I think, that's the most interesting aspect for me playing this part, and why I wanted to explore it is when a guy's been that sort of highly trained and highly skilled and been in such extraordinary, intense situations, and, you know, lots of situations where it's life or death, to suddenly then let that go and to try and live a normal life about what that is and how people are, and what a lack of understanding there must be from anybody else who hasn't been through that, about what they've been through. The movie's about, Jason plays a character who's basically hired as an assassin. His best friend and mentor has been captured and been told he will be killed unless he does this, and he has to basically pull a group together and target these ex-SAS guys who did an operation that somebody wants them killed because of what they did. And I play a character who is ex-SAS, who begins to realise that our people are being targeted, and I put together a group to try and counter what they're doing and do it. So it's a spy movie that has lots of very good action in it, but it is based in a very real world and a real 80s world. It's a kind of period film, and it feels like a spy movie, but a real one. My character Spike is part of a group called the Feathermen, which are a group of ex-SAS people that wield a lot of power, that are there really to protect the interests of SAS people or ex-SAS people and their families. And it's a very secret, clandestine group that meet, and if they have agendas, and they look after their own, basically. You know, I basically play their sort of guy on the street, really. They're sort of, you know, they're very established, you know, sort of people who have got strong attachments to the military, and I'm very much their guy on the street who's hearing the things and sorting the things and can enlist ex-SAS members to help do this. And so they're a very sort of strange, secret group. There's a couple of very big fights that I'm involved in this film, and they've got a really fantastic stunt team. I'd say it's the best I've ever worked with. And it just requires a few hours a day for quite a few weeks, really, to get on top of something like that. It's not the sort of thing you can sort of wing and turn up on set and sort of work out. It's very specific. And I always treat those things, it's like acting, you know, it's like doing dialogue. It's about rhythm, it's about precision. You've got to, you know, you've got to execute something very specific, and you've got to be prepared and ready to do it. And it certainly helps if the team around you, the stunt team, are, you know, very experienced and very skilled, and these were. There's something very satisfying about doing fights in movies because they're very, very specific. You know, it's about the lines of what you have to execute are very clear. It's like there are beats and certain things that you know. It's about sort of precision, and it's very clear, the objectives. It's different with dialogue because there's so many different ways you can interpret things, but with a good fight, it's very clear what you've got to try and execute, and I find that quite satisfying. I've had a really great time working with Gary, the director. It's his first feature, and there's always a risk involved when you work with a director who's never directed a feature before. I'd seen his short film and really loved it, and I liked him a lot when I met him and spoke to him about the movie and about his vision for it. But you never know until you start shooting quite how the thing will pan out. And I've had a really great time with him. I've been hugely impressed with him. He is incredibly prepared, always has a good perspective. You know, where you position a camera on a movie can tell as much of the story as dialogue can, you know, and the script, just in terms of the way you're coming at the characters and the way you're coming at the story. And his visual eye is really impeccable, his choice of shots of where to put a camera, and he comes in very clear. He's not one of those directors who comes in and tries to find his way through the scene. He comes in with a very clear idea about how he wants to tell this bit of the movie. And I've just gone, you know, I find him, you know, a great collaborator, very easy to work with, and I'm sure this is the beginning of a lot of features.